Hi, Shireen.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this podcast with me in
Yeah,
the middle
thanks
of,
for the invite.
right here at the end of Pacific Fire Gathering.
Yep.
This is such an incredible festival.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were able to come and enjoy yourself.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you have built such an amazing community and such a loving group of people here to gather for this art form.
I'm not going to take credit for that. There's been this year in particular went super smooth, and it was clear to me from the moment that was evident that that is because we have just this unbelievable staff that keeps coming back year after year. And from the director team and the organizers and the leads and the staff, they're working tirelessly, but we're finally in our 10th year at a point where systems have been developed, and then there's people who have participated in those systems for enough times that everything's moving really smoothly. And, my job is to kind of keep the broad vision of that container, but we are co-creating that container, and the people come and it's beautiful, right? But I'm certainly not going to
Wow.
take credit for that.
So, in your own words, for people who don't know what Pacific Fire Gathering is, kind of what
Yeah,
is
sure.
it, and then how did it start?
Okay, so Pacific Fire Gathering is a weekend-long event on the Oregon coast. And we inhabit a Boy Scout camp, and people come to do workshops during the day and then play with fire and hang out on the beach, listening to music pretty much all night. And there's lots of teaching and sharing and learning, and we have a couple of performances, one on Friday and one on Saturday. And it's just open to anyone. There's no fees for taking a specific workshop. So you buy a ticket, you come and camp out and meet all your brand new friends.
And I mean, the camping here is exceptional. We're here in the tundra rainforest in Oregon that goes right up against the coast, and you have this lovely beach, and we even had a full moon on Friday the 13th.
On Friday the 13th. That was a bonus. Our venue, this is, the Boy Scouts call it their crown jewel.
Oh.
And we are so lucky to have their patients every year, and they actually really love it when we come back. So we've been able to take on a lot of the Boy Scout ideas. So rather than leave no trace, which is a Boy Scout idea, we say leave a better trace. And they're actually very happy to have us come in at the end of their Boy Scout camp season, because we come through and actually clean out all the old candy wrappers that the boys stash. And
I could definitely see that. I mean, I'm an Eagle Scout myself,
Oh,
and
okay.
I didn't even know this camp existed,
Oh.
and it would have blown my mind if I got to be a Boy Scout running around here as a little tenderfoot.
Yeah, well, and apparently boys come, boys and now girls come from all over the country. I was just hearing that some folks came from Massachusetts this year, I think, with their troop. So we're the venue makes the event for sure.
So, then how did the idea to put this together come, and find the venue as part of that for sure?
Yeah, so the Flow Arts Institute had been putting on fire drums for many years. In fact, I think they're in year 18 now. So in a couple of years, they'll be 2 decades old, which just seems impossible on some level.
Wow.
And so they had asked their member, Zan, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. There's just some noises. We're at a festival still. People
Right,
are packing
people are
out.
leaving.
It's raining. We're under a nice gazebo watching the chaos.
So Zan Moore was one of the board members of the Flow Arts Institute, Axis Mundi, and they asked him to make another festival somewhere up here in the Pacific Northwest. We've been building our community up here for many, many, many years, and they recognize that, part of their mission is not just have everyone come to California once a year, but to try and create festivals across the country that allows community to gather in those places. And so they chose the Pacific Northwest as that location. So Zan brought in his wife, Aurora. They are a very dynamic duo, also incredible fire performers. And then they asked me to join in, and then we asked Randy Schless to come and join us. And so we were the 4 original founding directors, and we built it up for many years. And then, of course, life happens, and so there have been some changes. And now I'm the general manager. So Zan left, 3 years ago. We did a little switchover. I made him stay for another year to help me learn the ropes, and then this is my second year as general manager. So, Randy and I have been in it for all 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, someone told me that the tickets sell out every year for it.
Yep, takes about a week.
We got lucky. I almost didn't get tickets, and one of the vendors had a pair and a parking pass, and I snapped them for reply on the Facebook post.
Yeah, lucky.
Yeah, I'm glad I made it here. This is incredible. Do you see, what is the current size of the festival right now?
Big.
It's big?
Yeah. We're definitely over 600 this year. So we haven't.
And that's staff included?
Yeah, we haven't done the final gate count, so I don't actually have the
And I mean, people come and go and don't necessarily stay the whole time, so.
Yeah, although most people just come. Like, this is kind of, how people feel about Burning Man, and I'm coming home and this is my annual thing. People have the same thing about this event.
Yeah, and this is a lot less stressful, I think, even with the rain than Burning Man, which can kind of take the wind out of your sails sometimes.
Last year, the rain was incredibly stressful, but this year, it's just rain.
It worked out really well, beautifully, so this is awesome. So you're a performer yourself. Tell me about your company and your performance work.
Yeah, so my company is Flamboyant Productions. We're based in Portland. That incarnation of my performance career started in 2005. I've been fire dancing for 20 years now myself.
Wow.
And so my business started essentially to advocate for performers. So I'm a big believer that there's enough work for all of us as long as we're doing our work well, right? Having integrity in the business side of it, and then having artistic integrity in the performance side of it. And I'm got really tired of chasing down my paycheck at the end of a gig, or showing up knowing that I was wearing the right thing and doing the right thing, and then finding out at the last minute that wasn't the case. And so, I really was dedicated to allowing the performers that I work with and hire to just shine at what they do and kind of take care of all the logistics, so that they don't have to, and pay them well for what they do. Yeah, and I get to work with some really incredible entertainers. Pretty lucky being in Portland. It's a little bit of a circus mecca. I'm sure you feel the same in Austin. And so
it's definitely growing really quick there.
Yeah. So, but I've been performing with fire for a very long time, and then I'm also a stilt walker, partner acrobatics, character work.
You dabble in all of it. You've been around, and you're friends with everyone. Why not?
Yep, and I teach all kinds of things as well. So I teach aerials and tumbling, and
Oh wow, that's excellent. Well, where did so it seems like the flow arts are way more accessible, and the circus arts in general than they've ever been, especially with the internet and linking. But like, where did you find your start? Like 2 decades ago, when the community was a lot thinner.
Yeah, it's a funny story actually. So I pretty much started fire dancing before YouTube was a thing.
Yep.
So the closest thing we had were the little, very grainy videos on Home of Poi. And I happened to be traveling in India at the time, so I saw someone fire dance, and I was like, immediately, I need to know what that is. I need to do it. And I harassed my friend who did it until she showed me a few things, and worked with a person who'd been kind of performing and teaching in Thailand for a few years, and then I just started asking him questions that he didn't have answers for. So found a small community of people As a traveler, it's kind of like, wait, you do this too? Oh, I do this too, and I feel like people still have that in a lot of ways, but that was really the only way that we were learning new moves. It was like teaching yourself, and then when you met somebody, just downloading with them, right? Like, what do you know how to do? And for me at that time, it was all poi. It wasn't until much later that I realized there's lots of other things you could light on fire. So that was my start. And then I was just so passionate about it that pretty much everywhere I went, I just would try and create community around that. Started a monthly fire jam in Portland just to bring people together. And Pacific Fire Gathering is definitely an extension of that, of just trying to bring people together to learn and share knowledge and experience community and be in this beautiful place and experience all of the like healing qualities and the confidence building that circus provides.
Wow. That's wonderful. Do you have any examples in your own life of where the circus has kind of healed you? Or maybe a friend?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I mean, I see it. Might be a little deep of a question.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, let's go there, right?
Yeah.
I see it all the time in this context of this festival. There's so many examples, right? Like a number of years ago, there was an attendee who had a very, like a huge online presence, and was well known in that person's community as being someone that was extremely difficult to deal with and unpredictable and maybe unstable in some ways, and just really needing a lot of support and acting out and like just a hard person, physically unhealthy, mentally unhealthy, emotionally unhealthy, and found out that person had a ticket and chose to come, and we kind of, from afar, kept our eyes open, and there were a few scenarios where we were like, oh, do we need to step in somehow? And by the end, literally was listening to that person saying, oh my gosh, how can I help? How can I be a part of this? My eyes are open. This has changed me. And it truly came back the following year and was actually a different person. And it was such a good lesson for us about the healing powers of circus and fire and flow and events like this, and also the importance of being willing to take a chance, because I feel like it's so easy to see something that's unpredictable and just shut it down. But that's kind of the thing about circus, right? Like, that's kind of the magic, is like, but what if, right? What if I balanced this thing on this other thing while I was upside down and things were on fire, right? Right?
What if 600 fire dancers got to get together and tootle and grow and make bigger, crazier ideas?
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe that's one example of what I'm talking about. I mean, because it was such a transformation to witness.
And it is amazing to watch people transform, and especially like when new ideas and prop discoveries come out, and very quickly they spread almost like memes in the community, and then suddenly everyone's doing it, and then it almost seems like there's an endless amount of things that can be tossed and juggled and spun.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a workshop here this weekend that was like juggling with everyday objects. Right? I mean, why not?
What was your favorite workshop for this year's event? Did you get a chance to attend any?
I did. I mean, on a personal level, I really enjoyed taking the self-care workshop that was offered by one of our instructors, Kira Davis. She's amazing, and so we did a huge. Have you been
pushing yourself too hard running this?
Well, it was a nice way to start. We did a foam roller workshop, so we it's a technique that she's been working with called melt, and so we just rolled around on some mats first thing in the morning. So that was
melted into them.
Yeah, exactly. But Kevin Extel did a fire magic workshop. That was really fun.
I attended that. That was my favorite.
Yeah. Just to see all the props and watch things go poof, you know, and all the sparkles. And I mean, it's totally, to me.
Oh, I had my book out. I was taking notes.
Oh, I took all the notes.
All the notes. Excellent. I'm going to have to copy yours.
Yeah, so that was quite fun. And then I also listened to Richard Hartnell do a really fascinating lecture, conversation facilitating of the neuroscience of flow, and just his ability to describe the literal like nuts and bolts of what allows us to learn and flow and connect things one to another. On a cellular level, on an amino acid level, and then talk about how the brain works and how to practice and what flow is. It was a fascinating
Was he talking about like cognitive load? And
I mean, he talked about all kinds of things, interference and, you know, how myelin insulates the synapses and, you know, like the importance of sleep. Which is a little ironic at a festival.
Oh,
where
yeah.
nobody
Sleep's like where all the memory and all the tricks are unlocked.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And but going beyond just saying sleep is really important because that's where the memory and the tricks are unlocked. But saying, and here's why.
And here's why.
Right.
Yeah.
Because chemically, this is what's going on in your brain.
Oh, wow.
And this is, you know, why that is happening, and this is how that is. It was just fascinating.
Almost like the restructuring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
sorting.
like, oh, well, when this cell goes to this polarity, then this other thing happens, and, you know, these amino acids are pulled in, and they have this effect. And, yeah, it was
I heard it once, I heard it once said that memories hold stay in our mind as long as they have lessons to teach us. And once the lesson is learned, then the memory fades away.
Oh.
And the knowledge is kept.
Interesting.
And I almost feel that is true even in flow arts, to where you may not exactly remember how you learned every single trick, but you know how to do them all.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, teaching, I feel like, has to pull you back into being that, you know, young student again and trying to teach yourself how to then teach someone.
Right.
And
yeah. You know, I was talking with Richard about it this morning, actually, and I said, you know, they talk about different ways of learning, right? So there's the visual learners and there's the experiential learners. And I find that teaching is actually a very effective way of learning for me. So taking the information that I'm getting and that I know I understand, or the thing that I can do, but then breaking it down in such a way that in my mind I can then turn around and instruct someone else to create the same experience that I have. For me, that really somehow solidifies the learning process. Yeah, it's interesting. And he was like, oh, yeah, and here's why that happened, you know?
And in a way, it's almost like in order to teach someone, you really have to know what you're talking about. And it makes you check yourself to make sure, like, do I actually know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, that's kind of been something on a personal level that I've been experiencing over the last year or two is I don't actually have to know totally how to do the thing. I have to know what's needed to do the thing and train my eye to look for that. So I work with a youth performance group at the Aerial Studio where I work, and we've been teaching them tumbling, and some of them can tumble in ways that I cannot because they're 12 and fearless. But in watching them, it's like, okay, but I understand momentum and physics and, you know, how they're moving dynamically. And so whether or not I myself can do an aerial, once I understand the concepts of what it takes to do an aerial and what the steps are, I can see like, oh, you need to kick more with your back leg, or you need to get higher before you tuck, or right, like whatever that thing is. So yeah, on some level, I don't have to teach from my experience, right? I can teach from the breadth of my knowledge rather than the specificity of my knowledge.
Wow, that's very well put.
Oh, thanks.
Just let that breathe for a second. Do you see this festival growing with even more instructors and more events and things?
It's funny you should ask.
Oh, okay.
It is my mission to actually pare it down a little bit in the coming years. I love having all the people here. And as I said, because it's such a wonderful experience for people, I want to extend that out. But I think there's something also really beautiful about the level of intimacy that's available where, like, you have seen people more than once by the time you leave at the end of the weekend. You've had the chance to make new friends. And I used to perform at and vend at, 10 to 20,000 person festivals. And, you and I might cross paths and I would never see you again because there's just too many people there.
It's very, ship sailing in the night.
Yeah, right. And part of the mission of this event is to build community, and you don't build community if you're always ships passing in the night. You have to be moored, in the harbor together for a little while to be able to then, like, oh, wait, we're passing. I'm at least going to wave at you, right? Yeah, and from a logistical level, I mean, we did build it up for the 10th year anniversary. That was very much the plan. Yeah, I would like to see how we can maintain what we're doing with the event without kind of mimicking that really classic capitalist idea of endless expansion.
Well, I know you're still wrapping this festival up, but have you given any
that's going to be the
thought
next
at all?
week or two. I
mean,
have
you given any thought or two as to maybe what you might want to see next year, or what type of acts do you know exist that you would love to see, or types of instructors you'd love to see come to Pacific Fire? I mean, those people are listening.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it kind of isn't up to me.
True.
Right? Like we hire our workshop organizer and
I was talking to Riel about that.
Right. And so he's the performance organizer. So he, I believe that part of the reason why this event is successful is because I trust Riel to have great taste and also the skills to put the show together. And I mean, that fire show was awesome. Like, just blew me away, right? And so I'm like, okay, he's doing a great job, right? So some of it's based on, who applies to perform, and some of it's based on curating who you accept and what order you put them in and all of those things. Same thing with the workshops. So I love it when we have the aerials here. I love it when we've had stilt walkers and acrobats, and there's been really cool like dance fusion workshops here in the past, and I love that because to me it's all flow arts in some way, right? Like dance is flow without props, right? Like your body's the prop instead of the thing in your hand. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's a long answer to a short question, but I don't have a specific prop that I'm like, ooh, this is the thing, and sometimes I say, wait, this is the thing I want to see. And they're like, well, we overrule. You're one person.
That's not what's trending.
Maybe. But, I've been in this community for so long that sometimes I get some wackadoo ideas. It's like, but Shireen, nobody else really wants to see that.
And you're like, we don't know till we try. Okay. Well, how about where do you think else in the world or in the country the next flow type event would be successful, or would you like to see one? If like the Flow Arts Institute was to expand. I mean,
in a way, I'm really inspired by Watermelon Dan's idea. I don't know if you're okay. So
please,
he passed he passed a number of years ago, but he had the idea that just like most communities have a yoga studio, right? So like in Portland, they're everywhere, right? So I have my choice of any number of yoga studios of different styles in a mile or 2 radius from my house. In other parts of the country, maybe you got to go 5 miles, but you can still get yoga. People know what yoga is. Sometimes workplaces have yoga, or, you know, airports have yoga rooms, right? So like that is, it's not just those weird people that do that flexible bendy thing, right? And his vision was that flow arts would start to have enough purchase in the wider community that then there starts to be flow art studios everywhere. And festivals are great because they get people excited. But on a personal level, I feel like, you know, the experiences are really important, but the integration is more important. And so to me, yeah, it'd be cool to have another festival somewhere, but I would rather see flow arts studios in all cities and all the towns and have it in all the schools, and right, like there's value to having these physical exercises, these mental exercises that are non-competitive, that build confidence, that you know, they're meditative. They put you in your body. They're, you know, instructing your intuition about physics and gravity, and right, like there's math in there, right? And who doesn't want that? I don't know. Maybe they don't want it, but who doesn't need that, right? Like, in my view, there's a lot to be learned from the lessons that we get from the flow arts, and I think it'd be cool if some little town in Oklahoma had a flow art studio, you know, and yeah, maybe they need a couple of festivals nearby to get to the point where there's, you know, that's a sustainable business. But yeah, I kind of like Dan's idea.
Oh, yeah. That's Watermelon Dan. That's a fantastic idea. I've never heard that before. Well, do you have any other thoughts, things you'd like to say about the flow arts, or?
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're doing this. I'm looking forward to listening to some of your other podcasts.
Thank you.
Episodes. Yeah,
I can't wait. I've talked to some just incredible people, and I've been humbled by every conversation as this is going. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is excellent. How can people find some of your work, maybe videos, or even contact you for booking for gigs?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks. So my company is Flamboyant Productions. Flame like fire. Buoyant is BUOYANT.com is my website. If you're can't remember the spelling, usually like a Google search for Fire Dancing Portland will pull me up somewhere, because I've been doing it for a long time. And then I like to get really creative too about how we kind of bring circus into the corporate world, or just encouraging people to take a little risk and have a little more fun that way. So yeah, and I teach weekly classes. I have instructional DVDs, right? So there's all of that as resources as well.
Oh, wow. Let's say you only had one prop to hang out and burn here tonight at your last night at Pacific Fire. What prop would that be?
Well, poi was my first love. Yeah. I mean, I play with a lot of props, but that, yeah, we go way back.
Yeah, that's where I started. I started with glow sticks and Sandstorm back in the old techno days on shoelace strings. And then very quickly that turned into fire. And
right. And then you're like, maybe I'm not going to beat myself quite as much with the fire poi as I did with the glow sticks.
Not so many hand and head wraps, hopefully. Excellent. Well, thank you again for doing this podcast.
Yeah,
this
thanks
so
for
much
the
fun.
invite. Yeah, thank you.
Fire now. Something burning.
If you want to support the All Things Fire podcast, head on over to patreon.com and search for Morgan Floki. Thank you for all your support, travelers. Have a great day.